I'd be remiss not to welcome Rusty Mansell back to the Georgia show. It's been a long time. I feel like you missed a lot, man.
I know. I feel like had a busy last couple of weeks. I got hit with vacation, and when I say I got hit with vacation, y'all know as dads, that's not a vacation. You know what I mean? That's you can't hide on vacation. Let's just say this: you're not going down to Starbucks to work for a couple hours. Just hey, can you pick this up, or can we get this chair? So did that, and then actually went down to Naples as I ended the week and worked for FBU. Did a camp for them, and something I always do. And I tell you what, man, there's nothing more pleasant than a July afternoon on turf in Naples, Florida.
Nothing
Oof.
like it. Can't beat it. You can just smell your own hair burning.
Yeah.
A lot of the fans on the Dogs HQ message board really didn't want you to come back, though, Rusty. There's like 5, 6 commitments, I think, while you were out. So why are you back?
Well, I'll tell you 20 seconds on that. Jake might know this. I think it was 2013 or 20. I think it was 2012, and it was the Friday before Easter, and I was on vacation, and Georgia got 4 commits that one day, and I was having to run between the. I didn't have Wi-Fi that day for whatever reason in the hotel, so I was literally running across Thomas Drive in Panama City every 30 minutes with my laptop to a McDonald's across the street. So my history with, I think that's the day they got Shaq Wiggins, they got Ryan Rankin and all those guys. Remember that one day, just 4 kids popped, and told my wife, I said, I'll be right back. They got another commit. Next thing you know, I was like, what? So I'm literally running across the street. So my history with kids committing while I'm on vacation is about 11 years deep now.
I know you've collected your thoughts on DawgsHQ.com for our readers and subscribers over there, but just 15,000-foot view, what's been the biggest story that's happened since you've been gone? I guess since you've been gone from the show. I've got my thoughts on what it's been, and Roe maybe does too in that time frame over the past couple weeks. But what really is the headline for you in Georgia football news before we turn the page to SEC Media Days?
Stacy Searles and this O-line run. I mean, you start talking about adding what I like to say 1 percentile type humans. Every year I talk to people that see Georgia for the first time, maybe in person. Maybe it's a recruit who's like a 9th grader and their dad. I'll reach back out to him and go, what'd you think? He goes, my son can't play at Georgia. I was like, well, those are different human beings. So you look at Nair Daniels, 6'8", 370. Uni 6'6", 360. Daniel Calhoun, was he 6'6" and a half, 350. And I talked about, I never take a kid's moment, try to take a kid's moment. I'll let you guys know on our board at DawgsHQ, hey, they picked up a silent, at some point in the last few days. But I don't give positions, I don't give class. But Daniel Calhoun has been a silent for a couple of months now. I was just trying to see if Georgia could hold on to him, because he did take his visits and did do his due diligence and look at other schools. But at the end, he stayed with Georgia. So I think that run Stacy Searles, and Jake's mentioned a lot of this about people kind of doubting him a little bit. Jake was one of the ones when he got hired said, hey, just kind of calm down. Give him a chance, give him a calendar year, give him a 2 recruiting cycles, see what he can do. And man, he has had a hell of a class. If all these guys, and I do think they'll all stay and they'll be in this class, but you're talking about some big guys. My goodness.
The biggest office up there in the Butts-Mehre building has a lot to do with how your assistant coaches recruit. And, it's very rare that you have a guy that recruits as an outlier, low or high, whenever your head coach kind of sets the tone. And that's what Kirby does. He's a make you do your job, sets the tone in the office, kind of keep up with me, work at my level type guy. And, I look at it kind of like track, if you got a bunch of guys out there with running the 100 with a 20-mile-an-hour wind at their back, they're gonna run better hundreds than they've ever run in their lives, and that's kind of what they're dealing with. They got a wind at their back with Kirby being one of the. I'm not listen. This is not a shot at Nick Saban in the slightest, okay? But Nick Saban, unlike Kirby, Nick Saban was never like an ace recruiter on a college staff per se. Not like we see it these days. Not like hey, we need this guy, go get this guy. Hey, Kirby, there's a quarterback in Georgia, go get him. Kirby did that. There's a running back in Georgia, go get him. Tyler Simmons. Like Tyler Simmons was headed to Alabama. Kirby had him. And then, he comes over and then Georgia gets him, paying out or not, but it is what it is. And I think Kirby kind of brings that to a coaching staff in such a way that elevates all these guys as recruiters. And listen, Alabama's guys elevate too, and that's just Nick Saban being one of the greatest there's ever been. But I think that's one of the unique pieces of flair. Let's go Office Space there. Pieces of flair he kind of brings to the table there.
I'll say underrated story that really flew under the radar in the midst of all those commitments was Ellis Robinson locking his commitment down because of a couple reasons. A, he's like the best player in the country, depending on where you're looking. But B, with all the commitments that did roll in back to back to back to back, we called it, Jake. Georgia fans were going to get a little bit antsy when there was a drought of any length of time. So for Ellis Robinson to lock it down and still say, hey, I appreciate it. I had fun. Thanks, Alabama. I enjoyed my visit over there. Y'all did a great job, but I'm sticking with the G. So every little bit of stability while the commitment run kind of cools down is huge for Georgia. And that was, I think, if not, the most underrated story, I thought it was incredibly underrated. Because it was just no news, I guess, but it was huge in my eyes.
Yeah,
I mean that's another one of those number one overall players at their position, man. I mean it's a premium position. Anytime you can get the top player in the country at a premium position, you're looking at a multi-year starter, difference maker. The kind of guy that intercepts a pass for you in the national championship game and puts it on ice. That's the kind of player you're thinking about getting there. And Ellis Robinson can be better than that guy. He can be as good as he wants to be because he is he's a 1%er too. Not necessarily from how big he is, but you just don't see these dudes. I mean, Rusty reminds me a lot of like you remember no doubters like Vernon Hargraves and guys who just knew, hey, this cat's gonna play quick and he's gonna play a lot and he's gonna be really good. And
who was a freshman LSU? Who was a freshman LSU a couple years ago?
Stingley, Derek Stingley.
Yeah, Derek Stingley, that same vibe. Yep.
Yeah.
I sat down with Ellis Robinson's dad in Nashville at our own 3 Elite Series, and we were sitting outside. It was parents' happy hour. We're sitting on a little sunroof there, having a beverage, and I asked him a question: why Georgia for him? And I'm telling you right now, I knew it was going to take a lot to get that kid away from Georgia. He talked about Fran Brown, Will Muschamp, and Kirby Smart all being involved with DBs at Georgia. And he also knew all the kids they had placed from other schools, other places they had been. So his dad was ultra confident, and Georgia is a school that can develop his son and get him to where they think he can get. So, I knew then I said when I got back, look, he's going to take visits in Miami and Alabama and those schools. Would be crazy not to take a shot at him, but I felt like that was one that was going to stick. And he took his visits and put that tweet up, and, he'll be at Georgia for bowl practice probably.
We spoke about Juju Lewis on the last show, just touched on it a little bit. Georgia made his top 8, and I know since that list has come out, a lot of Georgia fans are not feeling incredibly confident about trying to compete with USC over the long haul here, but he's class of 2026. I feel like anything can happen. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but Rusty, I didn't want to gloss over that without getting your take on this kid because I know you know a lot about him.
Georgia's in this. Georgia's in this for real. Georgia is going to be in this to the end. I say it all the time. There's no points for second place. But I know Juju. I know his dad well. I've known them since they were in the 7th grade. And I've had some conversations with some people really close to them and around him. And Georgia is very appealing to them because they know there's 2 24s. And, what does Georgia do in 25? And who could Georgia possibly get in 25, in my opinion, to follow any of these guys right now? So if you're a 2026 and Georgia's on you major, I would think that's an kind of an ideal situation that most likely you don't even know if they're going to bring anybody in front of you. Obviously, with a portal, how things can change real quick. But Georgia may not get Juju Lewis, but I can tell you right now, 100%, they are a legit threat to land him as of today.
I mean, Kirby Smart met him when he was, like 7 years old? What was the story? I'm trying to find the picture.
Yeah, man, there's a picture of him. There's a picture of him in it's in Alabama, right?
Yeah. I just found it. Hold on, I'm about to pull it up.
Pop that up. There, I saw an Oregon Ducks picture. Yeah, check him out right there. Look how fresh Kirby look right there. I mean,
young Kirby.
That's a young Kirby right there. You know how they have those president pictures like, what do you look 8 years later? That's the one before. That's the before picture. But
Juju's a good-looking kid right there too. I mean, I bet he got all sorts of like foul balls at Braves games and stuff. That's the kind of kid to just stick his hand out and get one of those. Somebody got to hand him a ball or something. Cute kid.
So I have not, to be honest, I have not watched y'all's podcast on Juju, but it's funny because today I was catching back up going through Facebook, and his dad posted y'all's Facebook, that podcast on his Facebook. So I hope y'all don't get me in trouble. I got to go watch that. But
no, it was I think Wes did a clip out of it, and listen, if anybody associated with Juju takes issue with what I said you can't overrate this kid. This kid's special.
Yeah, TC's a good guy, and I didn't think it was a bad thing, but it was funny his dad shared it. But with Juju, I was very cautious because I felt like he got a lot of attention in like the 8th grade, and I just that bothers me a little bit because I know coming into high school, all these things, and he didn't ask for that, but he was already he's the number one player in the country by whoever ranks middle school kids and all this stuff. And I went and spent some time down there, and I told his dad, I said, look, I'm not going to write about him for a while. I'm just telling you. And his dad was cool with that. But let me tell you something. I went down there last August and watched him, and I told Joey King, I said, Joey, that you coach Trevor, you got to coach one of those unicorns. I said, this kid is super special. And he had a unbelievable freshman year. And that state championship game, even though they lost, I think it's a state record for a state championship game. They threw for like 500 yards as a freshman, 14 years old. I was trying to sneak into movie theaters to see like PG-17. And this guy is playing on the biggest stage in the state of Georgia.
531 yards.
Dude, it was incredible. I was there. And he took a shot on threw a pick on like the first drive, and it never rattled it. Then they couldn't stop Mill Creek. Mill Creek was the best team in the state last year. But for a freshman quarterback to do what he did in that game, there were college coaches all over that sideline. So I'm just telling you, man, he's special. And there's some really good quarterbacks in the state right now. I'm gonna tell you right now, Juju Lewis he's as good as advertised.
5 touchdowns in that game too. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
I've only ever seen his film, but I remember calling Rusty. I guess what was Rusty right around the 1st of June, one of those first couple of camps that Georgia had, and I called him and I said, "Hey, I know some dudes that were out there this week at Georgia, and they called me immediately, and they were like, man, I have never seen anything like this. This kid throws the football." I compared him to, I said, this dude's the Greg Maddux at quarterbacks. Yeah. I was like, he puts it exactly where he wants it. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying he's going to go over there and just spin it like nobody's ever spinned it before. I don't know how his arm strength's going to go. He's only a kid right now. He's still got so much getting bigger and stronger to go. But the accuracy is often something that a lot of quarterback coaches tell you just don't teach it. Not elite accuracy, and he's got it at a real young age. He puts it exactly where he wants it.
So ESPN, they start the Geico. They have the Geico series where they do the high school opening kickoff, and they do like those 5 games. They're playing by themselves the week before. They'll be the only high school football game on that night when they play Langston Hughes. So you'll get to see Aaron Nolan, the Ohio State commit quarterback, and you'll get to see Juju Lewis. And I think it's an 8:00 game on Friday night. It's the first time in my knowledge that ESPN has done that. And then 2 weeks later, I have Juju on our TV broadcast versus Rome on a Friday night in Rome. So I get to drive like 5 minutes to work that night. So 2 out of the first 3 weeks of high school football, he's going to play on statewide TV, and then he's going to play in a nationally televised game right off the bat. I hope I didn't get anybody in trouble if I hadn't announced that ESPN deal yet. Sorry, Joey King, but that is going to be a national game.
Pretend like you didn't hear it.
Yeah, that's the rumor. They might play on ESPN at night.
Really quick before we move on, Justin Williams, Winery, who announces first? Do we know? Do we have an idea? Maybe.
Maybe I shouldn't comment. Won't be too much longer on one of them.
I think Rusty lost me there. He didn't really hear what I asked.
I didn't. It won't be too much longer on one of them. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Breaking up on me. I won't guess because I do know about one of them, and I'll just say that I do know that one will be announcing pretty soon. But I'm not gonna. I'll let that kid have his moment when they do it. But yeah.
Tomahawk Dog wants a Carrollton against Buford game. I'm sure Buford would take it.
Somebody's asking me that today, and I believe if both win their regions as a 1 seed, they would play in the semifinals. How awesome would that be to see Juju versus Rayola in Mercedes-Benz on a Thursday night? So the 7A championship game this year is a Thursday night at 8 p.m. in Mercedes-Benz. State championship games are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So that's the only way.
Thank God they got it back in there.
They had to, man. I mean, we could talk all night about that.
So are we back to semifinal games in MBS? Final games are there. Yeah,
just the finals. So Corky Kell is at Rome again on a Friday night, and that'll be Rome versus Cass. I have that game with our guy Brandon Adams of Dog Nation, and you get to see Jacoby White. He plays that first night. The next day, 4 games at the Mercedes-Benz. So a lot of high schools, 33 days away. Not that I'm counting, it's 33 days away from that Friday night Corky Kell here in Rome. So it's on basically. We get back from Nashville, got a few days, I would say, and then it's on from here.
I lied. I got one more question from the comment section. What about Nate Frazier? We did not really touch on him the last couple videos we've made, so I don't want to pass up on that. I know a lot of people want to know about this big running back target.
You know, you look at that and you say, is he done taking visits? Not sure. So I would pick Georgia today, but you know, off the record, there's no time frame here set or anything like that. But I do like kind of where Georgia is, but that one to me doesn't seem like it's over yet.
One thing I would point out there, I've heard some chatter about the South Carolina game, him trying to get an official visit going that weekend. And on top of that, I've also had it pointed out to me that is the week that Mater Dei is off. They are on bye that week, the weekend that Georgia plays South Carolina. It's their only bye week of the year. So sounds like whoever I spoke to there may have been guessing from that, or they know exactly what they're talking about. I kind of lean towards the latter, but it makes a lot of sense for him to be in town that weekend. And I do think there is intent to take an official visit to Georgia because he still has that left.
Yeah, he took 2 unofficials in like a 6-week time frame. So that'd be a huge get. That'd be a huge get for Georgia with what they've got so far in this class to add him. But, you know, I spent some time around Chauncey Bowens in Florida, in Naples. And what I liked about Chauncey was 30 offers, whatever he had. He's committed to Georgia, doesn't have to do anything. This guy came to a 3-day camp, and he did every single rep with every single player. And he came to try to earn an invite to the All-American Bowl in San Antonio, Texas. He was one of 5 prospects down there in Naples to get it. But, you know, I sent you guys the audio. I think Jake Roos may have written it, but yeah. It was interesting to hear him say he was basically a silent commit to Georgia for like 2.5, 3 months before he ever flipped that night. And that wasn't the intention for that video to get out. And I said, wasn't that crazy that he was going to announce on that Saturday at 3? Well, his Nikar, his buddy, his class guy commit here pops it on Instagram. We see it. So obviously we're going to run with it. And I told him, he said, man, you know what's crazy? That thing, it got over 1 million views. And he goes, total. He said, I was just going to pop something at 3 o'clock the next day. He said, in the end, that worked out even better. I didn't even plan it, and I got 1 million views anyway.
All right. Appreciate it, Rusty. I've been a very, very sorely missed component of the show is getting your input from that. And it was kind of bittersweet because I just figured the longer you're gone, the more commits Georgia will get. So we'll have more to talk about. So it was a double-edged sword.
They had a GoFundMe set up for me to go on vacation again. I was like, guys, I can take a trip now. If y'all want to send me in Hawaii or whatever for about a week. So
do your job and don't come back to work.